Think word sledgehammer in 3, 2, 1.
Sledgehammer.
Alright, everybody, welcome back to the final part of our breakdown of Prehistoric Planet Season 2. I'm once again, as expected, joined by my friends Eric and Gibson. Say hello, fellas.
Hi!
Eric actually had to go for this one, so joining us today instead is a pre-recorded thing that I gave, and just hopefully I was really good at guessing what you guys were going to talk about and exactly what you're going to say, and we'll see how this goes.
Oh, well.
Dang, technology is amazing.
I have faith.
It really is. It really is.
AI is going to change the world.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No. This isn't AI. This is just me just being that good.
No, I know. That was an unrelated statement.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure we weren't uncrediting how skilled I was at guessing what you guys were.
Oh yeah, no. This is 100% raw grass-fed Eric.
Yeah.
Raw grass-fed. I love it. Okay, well, we're jumping right into the final episode of Season 2 here for this podcast, and it's a different one compared to the other 9 that this series has to offer, in the fact that it doesn't follow the same environmental concept for the episode.
Tell the story of how I discovered the name of this episode, David, as
go
they
for
go
it.
to this?
Yes.
Yeah, this is good.
Okay,
go for it.
So I got all 4 other episode names spoiled for me before the show came out, but I hadn't heard this episode's name, or I hadn't seen it anywhere. And so me and David were in a call, and he knew way more about it than I had. I had stayed relatively spoiler-free somehow. And I told him, I was like, yeah, I got 4 out of 5 episodes. He's like, ooh, which ones did you get? I was like, islands, swamps, badlands, oceans. And I was like, well, at least I got one more I can try to guess, you know? And David just goes, oh, well, you're not gonna get it. And I was like, really? And I started throwing out some ones like jungles, caves, I don't know, rivers, like, you know, some basic stuff that you might be able to imagine there being an episode for. And he was like, okay, you're not anywhere close. And I was like, is it a different format? Is it not an environment? He's like, yes. And finally, I just asked him to tell me, and David just gets right up on his mic and just says, North America. And I think I was genuinely speechless for a little bit, and then I proceeded to somewhat mercilessly make fun of this episode title all the way up until watching it. And then, because life tends to, you know, come full circle, it became my favorite episode of the season.
Yeah, it was just so funny, because I feel like if there were at least a couple of them that followed this format, then it would be less standout. It'd be like, okay, they're actually shifting and trying something a bit different.
But that it's just one is so funny to me.
Yeah.
The fact that we have like all these crazy like majestic environment names, and then it's just like
North America.
It's like, even for this one, they're just like, we can't pull together a consistent thing for this, like freshwater swamps. Like we just gotta go different. We gotta go North America.
Yep.
It's just funny.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, it turned out to be a great episode. It's just a comedic contrast to the other titles, but it was a banger. I think honestly I've really come to appreciate how diverse it is, because I realized that not only does this episode not have a central environment theme, it doesn't repeat the same environment twice. We get forests, coasts, oceans, a weird like mineral salt lake thing, and we get like icy tundra. So it's pretty cool to have an episode that actually covers a wide range of environments. It's a good season finale, honestly. I think it fits really well as the final episode. That was the right place for it.
I was going to say, I think it did do a really good job as the finale, now that I'm thinking about it, because it's kind of a tribute to all of the places we've visited along the way.
Yeah.
In an interesting fashion. But one thing the show always does, which I should come to expect it at this point, especially with Season 1. Season 2, actually, not really. This is the first time it did, I think, besides the Isosaur scene. But just kicking off the episode with the the Kets and T-Rex fight technically starting with the Alamosaurus walking around.
Yeah,
but that
we do get a little ease in, but then it's straight into like the most bonkers scene of the episode.
Yeah, which is really, really cool. I think you guys, someone in our friend group said at one point that they had thought about this exact fight scenario like as a kid, but Tyrannosaurus versus Pterosaurs is something that I never even considered until this episode, and I thought it was just really awesome to watch. It was a great segment.
Totally. I loved how the fight felt really dramatic and really cool in its execution, but it also didn't overstay its welcome. Like the T-Rex was just kind of sitting screaming at it and taking
it's basically
multiple
just
pecks
getting pecked at. It's so grounded, but it also feels so hype while it's happening.
It does.
The music does
very
a lot
good
to really
blending
help.
of the two. Oh yeah.
And also we have the best sound design in the whole show, Fight Me, which is the foghorn Quetzalcoatlus noise.
Oh, it's great.
And multiple times in this sequence.
The sound cue when they first arrive and you just hear it in the distance is so cool.
Want to know what's a great thing that I've learned about the Quetzalcoatlus noise? I've at least heard this. Ooh. I don't know where they got the source from, but I've heard that the Quetzalcoatlus noise is literally just a chicken slowed down. And
really?
If that's true, that's amazing.
That is truly incredible. I mean,
I guess it's kind of like how...
I mean, I'm sure they've done like other, audio editing stuff to it. Like, I'm sure it's not just raw audio of a chicken slowed down, but still, like the fact that that's its base is.
I mean,
if that's true,
I did a lot of that type of stuff for Dinosaur Island. It works, taking modern animal noises and just messing them up.
Yeah.
So
totally.
I can believe it.
I mean, it's kind of like how the iconic noises from the Velociraptors in Jurassic Park, a good chunk of them, from what I'm aware of, were slowed down tortoises mating with their little honking noises. Yeah, I'm not kidding.
I know the iconic, like, really screechy one is Dolphin over Walrus. I remember that.
There is Dolphin and Walrus, but like a lot of the other noises were tortoises.
I didn't know about the tortoise getting laid. That's something.
Yeah. It is. But yeah, really, really cool scene. Really, I love that it took place on a beach too, a really dramatic environment that's kind of desolate for like this confrontation in a way, but it looked really cool against the crashing waves.
Unique environment for the fight to happen in, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was a very good environment. I think
the T-Rex was expertly animated in this too, as it was last season. Like the weight of when it chases the Troodontid off and kind of just like charges into the Alamosaurus carcass, like all the physics and weight to the T-Rex's movement just once again looks so good.
Yeah,
they're not scared to let things just naturally crash into each other.
Or kind of lean to support their weight. There's lots of subtle awkwardness and sway to the way the big animals move that looks really believable.
And I love how the Quetzalcoatlus win in this fight. I thought that was great.
Yes.
Because, like, that's, like... Because, like, it's kind of like with the Simosuchus that we were talking about in the first episode, right? How some people will be like, how could a T-Rex lose to a Quetzalcoatlus, which is, like, one of the most lightly built animals ever, right? And
there's plenty of people complaining about it online right now.
There's actual outrage. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Whereas
it's great. I'm loving every minute of it.
Whereas and yeah, it's true. But like, if it was T-Rex Quetzalcoatlus cage match, right? Like the T-Rex would probably almost certainly win, because just one bite almost anywhere on the Quetzalcoatlus would just like end it. It'd just be done for.
Yeah.
But I love how it still wins because, we see, as we were talking about the Simosuchus before, like, small animals or weaker animals, I should say, because the Quetzalcoatlus ain't that small compared to a T-Rex. It's a big animal. Can win fights against stronger things all the time, right? Just by being confident or intimidating, or they're obviously flying around and they're pecking at it, right? And sometimes the bigger animal just doesn't want to deal with them, right? And so you're just like, you know what, screw this, I'm just gonna leave.
Like, I think
So
to
he
anyone
does.
doubting the ending of this fight being realistic, imagine two Asdarchids your height trying to peck your eyes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, also, like,
Exactly.
imagine, like, if like a raccoon is like being aggressive and is coming for you, right? I mean, like, you're like,
Oh, yeah.
most people, even though you could win the fight with the raccoon, are just gonna like back up and leave the raccoon be because they don't want to get hurt, right?
Yeah.
Well, you know what this scene reminds me of is there's so many videos of people like walking into their office building and there's a goose with a nest in the garden outside that is
Yes, this is
flying
These
over
are
their head and
terrors.
just picking the crap out of them. And I'm like, the fact that a goose could mess you up if you're not careful when it's defending something
yeah.
just goes to show
Goose
that
are pretty lightweight animals.
just one Quetzalcoatlus with a sharp beak longer than a man is enough for a T-Rex to be deterred in the right situation, never mind two of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. 100%.
Humans. How could T-Rex possibly be scared of that pterosaur? Also,
But I do
humans.
also,
oh,
like-
spider.
There's such a... I really love the animation of these animals in general in this scene, and one little detail I really like is there's one shot with the Quetz and the T-Rex, I think when it's kind of a wider shot, where the Quetzalcoatlus, like, kind of like is looking at the T-Rex and looks to the side, then looks back at the T-Rex, like, kind of like a little quick, nervous movement, and I really like that, because it kind of shows that, like, the Quetzalcoatlus also, like, you know, it's keeping its wits about it. It's not super, like, just coming in super confident. Like, it's also, like, you know, it's aware that the T-Rex is a dangerous animal, and it's kind of, like, keeping an eye on the situation and, like, what is happening and stuff, and I really like that little touch. Just, like, little touches of animals doing just, like, little random movements or looking in a different direction really quick are all things that I really like to see.
Absolutely.
totally, yeah.
There's actually a little detail like that later in the episode I want to point out if neither you guys get to it. But
Okay.
staying on this scene for now, yeah, the effects team just really nailed this one. I love, too, how, like, the
This one's
pterosaurs get
amazing.
the upper hand by one of them staying in the air and the other one going up on the carcass, like, both very believably, you know, I have the high ground, Anakin, it's over. I also just want to point out, we should probably move on to the next scene at some point, but another thing I want to talk about with this scene is just how cool it is to me that we finally got some Alamosaurus representation in the documentary,
That's
especially
true.
because with the addition of Alamosaurus after Rapetosaurus and Isosaurus and then all the sauropods last season, the representation for late Cretaceous sauropods in this show feels so complete. I'm sure it's not literally complete. I'm sure they missed some.
Totally.
But they got so many cool ones and so many iconic ones. And I think I was mentioning this to you, David, how Prehistoric Planet is such a good antidote to the kind of outdated myth that sauropods were, like, declining in the end of the Cretaceous. Like, in diversity, yes.
Well, not even the end of the
in-
Cretaceous, in the Jurassic. I think it's just a general thought that sauropods were dying by the end of the Jurassic.
Yeah, it is, and that was like their peak.
Yeah.
And then we look at the very end of the Maastrichtian, and we have all these amazing sauropods, some of which are still massive, like the Alamosaurus being one of the biggest.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
and
just love
Dreadnoughtus
that.
being one of
It's
the
very
biggest,
good.
too.
Yeah, I mean, Dreadnoughtus is massive as well.
Yeah, I think the sauropod diversity in this show is incredible. I mean, I want to say there's around or close to 10 in the show altogether.
Probably
like,
around
it's getting
there,
up
yeah.
there. There's a lot.
Yeah, quite a few.
And
Very cool to
Alamosaurus,
see.
I think, was kind of needed, and it did kind of sour me a little bit more on the fact that we didn't get to see Ankylosaurus itself, because that would have really rounded out the classic Hell Creek group.
Even though
really
Alamosaurus
nicely.
isn't from Hell Creek.
Well, yeah, but it's often
Hell Creek
depicted with
adjacent.
the
It's often
It's
just
adjacent.
because
Thrown in.
people because people want to have a sauropod in Hell Creek, even though Alamosaurus is like found from like Texas and stuff. It's a lot more south. But
yeah.
But you know what is also found down south? Some T-Rex remains. So T-Rex was down there. So I mean, like,
There
you
it
go.
definitely, it's not unreasonable that any of the animals in here could have interacted, right? because I mean it's not like they just lived in the formation that we found them in. But Alamosaurus being Hell Creek specifically is a little. I mean, maybe, who knows? Maybe they made it that far up. I mean, they were in the same time period. They coexisted with the Hell Creek biota.
Yeah.
At least temporally, if not geographically.
True. And
there
I think the Alamosaurus is one of the more reserved sauropod designs in the show, but there's something about something about it I really like. I know Gabriel Aguedo designed this one as well. It's very subtle, but
it's not super
nice
colorful, but it looks nice, and I think it's one of the best animated. Probably only topped by the Dreadnoughtus. I thought there was some really
very
good
nice sauropod.
Muscle mass and shifting weight to it and all that.
Yeah.
Looked solid.
Yeah, totally.
I'm also just scrubbing over the episode. I love the shot of the one collapsed on the beach as the other ones are walking away in the distance.
I also really love,
nice
just real quick and then we can move on, the fact that Quetzalcoatlus is depicted with the T-Rex here, right? Because one thing it was making me realize is how giant Asdarchids are so often depicted with small prey animals, right? Because that's probably what they're eating for the most part. And so because of that, it makes a lot of documentaries, like one thing I do think that they can struggle with a little bit is really depicting the size of these animals, right? But showing them next to a T-Rex and showing that they're literally taller than the T-Rex was a really great way of just like depicting just how large these pterosaurs were. I mean, they were massive animals.
Totally.
Giraffe size.
Yeah, it was really cool to see that size reference. Because, putting them next to the T-Rex really puts it in perspective.
Yep. Which I feel like Season 2 definitely improved on, especially for the Asdarchids a lot. The cinematography with the Hatzegopteryx in particular, even though it had smaller prey, made it look huge.
Yeah.
And,
they did a good job making the Hatzies look really big.
And I didn't even think of that, but having the Kets with the T-Rex on a sauropod corpse is a really cool visual. But anyway, we move from the ocean. I really like the kind of the general flow of this episode. I feel like every environment almost flows into each other because we move from the beach underwater to the Globidens scene. And this is one that I was kind of predicting that they might put in the show because I know they like their Mosasaurs, obviously. And Globidens was a really cool, unique Mosasaur. I don't think we have another one like it with the shell-crushing, rounded teeth in its mouth. That infers a very specific feeding style. And I think the depiction of its feeding style in the show is a little bit dramatized. Because it's obviously going out and grabbing multiple of them and crushing its shell so they sink, and then it feeds on them later. It's not unrealistic, but it could have very well just eaten them one at a time as well. But I think it was a really cool,
and also I don't
set
think
piece.
They definitely made it cool.
They did.
I still think it's totally believable, but honestly, I think they did a pretty impressive job, like making a mollusk specialist still seem very intimidating.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think
it helps also by just the previous episode making us feel for the ammonites more and root for them more, because I remember that was fresh in my mind, and then just seeing all of them sink helplessly to the ocean floor was kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
In a way.
To just get wrecked by the Globidens.
Yeah, just crushed and left to die. But it was cool. I liked the patterns on it as well. It was very stripy.
I thought it was a very cool segment with him just popping them all and then going down to eat them later.
Yeah. I don't think that I have a ton to add to it. It was just cool seeing Globidens.
It was
because it's a cool animal.
Yeah.
Yep.
It feels like we got a nice rounding out of more Mosasaurs this season, because we get more actual Mosasaurus, but then getting a smaller one with Phosphorosaurus and getting the weirdo Globidens. It feels like we've got some solid representation of different Mosasaurs.
One thing I can say real quick before I forget is I know that this behavior is like supposedly based on some fossils, because there's some ammonites that have like holes in their shells that have been attributed to like mosasaurs crunching them and breaking them. But I know there's some debate as to whether that is from actual mosasaurs, if they're tooth marks, or if they're like lippets, or just like basically a parasite on the actual ammonite, because the shells themselves aren't like crushed. But regardless of whether or not these fossils actually depict this behavior, I don't think this behavior is unreasonable to occur.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Regardless of whether or not these fossils actually depict it, like, even if this is something else happening, right? I'm just like, yeah, but I mean, this shows that maybe these fossils aren't evidence of this happening, but that doesn't necessarily mean it didn't occur, right?
That's very true. It's kind of like the whole oviraptor egg thing, where everyone's shunning the idea of oviraptor eating eggs, and I'm like, every carnivorous animal will eat eggs if it needs to, or wants to.
Lots of animals eat eggs.
Are omnivorous animal.
Yeah.
Yeah, eggs are very common and easy thing to feed on.
SpinoDude caught calling oviraptors carnivores 2023 in the hood, colorized 4K. Oh.
Oh, he's got me there. But yeah, that was something too that I just to credit them properly, that the Skeleton Guru is talking about, because I feel like a lot of the time when new discoveries are made, or there's perspective shifts on the way we used to view certain things that we thought were one way with a discovery, then it's like the media is all or nothing. Like, it's black and white. Like, it's like, oh, they never ate eggs, they protected their eggs instead. Well,
even
it's like, well, actually,
everything eats eggs.
Everything eats eggs.
Lots of things eat eggs. Deer eat eggs.
Yep. Deer eat birds. Deer eat me.
Yeah. Hadrosaurs eat crabs. I've been eaten
by deer.
Yeah, they do. We have fossil evidence of hadrosaurs eating crabs.
We do.
Clearly, the mates, they were crab specialists.
Yeah, no, obviously.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, so what happens after Globidens?
Then we go to Pectinodon, which is weirdly one of my favorite scenes of the episode.
Yes, the tooth taxon.
It's well, it's tradition for a troodontid to only be known from a tooth, I guess.
It's
I don't know what the deal with that is, but yeah, really pretty simple scene, but cool, unique feeding behavior with the babies catching the flies. Cool, unique environment around this toxic mineral lake thing.
Yes.
We got some weird Cretaceous ducks, which did look a little funky, but still kind of a cool inclusion.
Yeah.
And I really think the design of both the adult and baby Pectinodons I really, really like. And lots of nice slow-mo.
I really like
it was just a really solid little scene. I enjoyed it.
I really like watching them catch flies, because this is another thing that's based on some real animal behavior. So seagulls around the Great Salt Lake, and maybe some other areas, but I know they at least do it around the Great Salt Lake, do this exact behavior where they run into the flies with their mouths open and then eat them that way.
I mean, it works.
So I thought that was very cool that they decided to do this for Prehistoric Planet. I even saw them, like, I remember I was at the Great Salt Lake, a long time ago. I was maybe like, I don't know, 11, something like that. I want to go back there one day, but I remember there was all these brine flies that, like, you see in the episode, and I remember seeing the seagulls doing this exact behavior on the beaches, chasing after and eating the flies, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool to see more unique, like, food sources being taken advantage of. Like, I loved in season 1 when the baby fairies go after a bee nest to get honey and stuff. Like, any type of food source that, like, totally makes sense, but that you don't immediately think of with dinosaurs is cool to see depicted.
Yeah. Animals will eat things, as it turns out, that they're not necessarily, like, super, super adapted for, right? Like, they don't have to be a specialist for it for them to eat it. Animals will take advantage of things.
Then if it fills your stomach, and it's healthy, then it's worth it. Because, I mean, unlike a lot of other media depicts with dinosaurs especially, not everything wants to look cool and get into massive life-threatening conflicts constantly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a predator, if you can get food without risking your own well-being, then that's a win.
Yeah, big win.
Exactly.
Big win.
Massive W.
Massive W.
W the size of Europe.
And I also loved how there were two rocks that were very conveniently in the way for when it was.
I was just going to bring this
to
up.
hide the gore.
Yeah.
I think that was
a lot of the.
That was the most poorly done hiding for a hunt I've seen in the show. I think
because like obviously like since the three of us are adults here, right, and we don't mind some gore. I would obviously be fine with more gore in the show, but like I understand why they're doing it because they know that, I mean, kids are gonna watch this. I mean, like it's dinosaurs. It's a dinosaur documentary show. I mean, kids are gonna watch it. It's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I think they do a lot of their censoring very well and very just depicting like them just not quite getting the shot. Like I remember the Tyrannosaurus from season 1. I think they did very, very well. Of like, you know,
and that was one shot that felt very intentional. Like it was the artistic intent of the shot to have the vision obscured.
This is one of the few...
The Pectinodon felt more like convenient rocks.
Yeah, this felt a lot more like very convenient rocks.
To the point where I almost wonder, especially because it wouldn't have been that bloody anyway, I wonder if the actual people who like determine the rating of the show told them they needed to censor that and they added in those rocks later or something. Maybe it feels like it might have been a last minute
because I was even thinking like what if it just hit it on the ground once, right? Because like honestly if it just did it and it went behind the rock one time, I don't really think I would have even noticed it. It's the fact that it happens twice that's the real thing that
it is two rocks
that makes it stand out.
Like I think if the Cheon like swung the Corythoraptor around like a second time and there was another tree conveniently placed, it would immediately be more obvious.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, okay,
100%.
It's they're trying to hide it, but I agree. I think easy fix would have been to, you know, slam it down once or cut the camera away.
Having said all this, I didn't even notice this on first viewing before you guys pointed it out because I was too distracted by the pretty slow-mo. So that's where my brain was at.
The slow-mo was
clearly
very pretty
it wasn't
very
distracting for
planet
everyone. So.
I loved it.
It's good to see.
But yeah.
What else?
And yeah, I didn't get to comment on it, but I just want to echo as well that I think all of the troodontid designs in this show are great. And also we can finally comment because we touched on it last episode when we were talking about the Shamasukis, but the Stygimata, the ancient duck.
Oh yeah,
not the best looking thing.
Yeah,
no. And like I said before,
very
I don't think
modern-ish animal that doesn't work as well.
Yeah. And I do wonder. There's a part of me that wonders if it's them not working as well, or it's the fact that it's more of a minor animal, and so they're not like really trying super hard. Mm-hmm. Well, I shouldn't say not really trying, but like, you know, they're not putting the same level of effort into it as they are in like the T-Rex and stuff. I don't know.
Potentially.
I don't know what the answer is, but
I do like the shot where they do the flamingo back and forth thing when they look back and forth in unison.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a nice shot, but the close-ups is where they don't look as nice, which is kind of the opposite. I've talked about with this show how normally the animals look better the closer the camera gets, but with the ducks, it was like maybe stay a little further back.
I do like their inclusion though, being because I'm pretty sure all the other birds, because I think the small little Tweety guys from season 1 were Eantiornithines, which is a group of birds that are extinct. I think these are the only ones that are in the show that are members of crown birds. So crown, when people say the crown, it basically means like all of the living ones, like, and all the groups that are in that clade, right? So like, you know, this bird is, since it's like in the group of modern birds, doesn't have any teeth. It has basic anatomy like them. In fact, it's not even like, it's in the duck lineage, right? So there's 3 for non-bird people. I know this because I'm a bird person. Not bird people. So there's like
the bird people.
There's 3 very, very broadly. There's 3 very basic groups of birds. There's the Paleognaths, which are your ostriches, your rhea, of modern birds, I should say. ostriches, rhea, emu, cassowaries, tinamous. Then there is the duck and upland bird group. So these are the ones that include duck, geese, waterfowl, this thing that we see in the episode, as well as things like chickens and turkeys and pheasants. And then there's another group, the neo-aves, which are all the rest of the birds. And this member is a part of the duck group, because all three of these lineages had already diverged in the Maastrichtian, like in the end Cretaceous. And all of them survived the asteroid impact. So I don't know where I'm really going with this, but bird evolution happened like before. Basic bird evolution of modern lineages had already happened before the asteroid impact, and so seeing like some primitive members of, but like not primitive to all birds, primitive specifically to the waterfowl lineage, was cool to see, because we do have their fossils.
That was neat. I mean, as a non-bird person, I didn't really know that there was anything of that lineage that old. So that was cool.
I didn't either.
Yeah, no, ducks and geese have been around a while, as it turns out.
Yeah.
Them damn geese.
Yeah.
There.
All right, well, next up we get the Triceratops running scene,
yes,
which was
this scene was
unexpected.
amazing.
I don't know. I didn't see this one coming until they showed shots of it in the intro for this season. It's not something I predicted, but it was pretty darn cool. I enjoyed it.
And not only did we just get Triceratops, we basically got Yoshi's trike with the sick horns.
We did.
Those horns, though.
The horns were so
The
big.
horns, so cool.
I like their idea here, their speculation on them getting bigger and bigger horns as they age. Almost certainly based on some bovines today, like bighorn sheep at least, and probably some other ones. Where like the older males are the ones with the bigger horns. I like that little bit of speculation on Triceratops biology.
Yeah, I absolutely I loved this last season, and it's even more apparent this season with this sequence. I love how much individual variation there is in that Triceratops herd. There's so many different horn shapes and subtle coloration differences, and then seeing just the dramatic difference between the younger and older males that fight with each other. It really brings the group to life. I mean, it honestly makes some of the other herds in the show look worse by comparison. Not that they're ever like bad or way too homogenous, but the Triceratops really nails just a high level of variation between the different herd members, and really, really cool to see. It just really makes it that much more immersive and interesting to look at.
Totally.
There goes Jesse. I might have to go unlock the door.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's once again time for Eric's alone time. Well, except this time Gibson's joining me. Hi, Gibson.
Yes.
So
special guest Gibson. Although actually, I'm gonna pee.
Yeah, tortoises, Gibson. Wow, I have to talk about tortoises by myself. Tortoises are weird. Turtles in general, they're a very weird animal. They evolved to have their shoulder blades inside their rib cage. That's pretty whack. I wonder how they did that. Probably some weird genetic coding stuff, you know. Yeah, that's pretty weird.
Okay, I'm back.
Well, Gibson's in the bathroom now, so now you get to join me for Eric's alone time.
Sick.
Let's see, what else about... I don't think... Is there anything interesting about turtles you want to discuss, David?
Actually, funny you say that. It is technically a turtle. It's not... I have just learned this the other day. I have been looking into box turtles because I find them very interesting, and I found out that they're not actually tortoises, but they're turtles.
Yeah, I see them.
And
I see them over here. I've actually caught a couple.
I think it's just really cool how they like completely seal themselves, like they're in a little Chinese takeout box.
Yeah, they've evolved a hinge in the shell, which is very crazy and very weird.
Imagine evolving BOTM articulation. That's a flex.
Yeah. Anyways, what were we on? What were we talking about?
Triceratops.
We were finishing up with Triceratops, and I was just gonna echo again just how how impressive the diversity of the models are, because I really don't think I've ever picked out two of the same models in like the same shot in this whole show. At least like there's always hue differences or a different amount of the warmer colors on their frill or different stripes or something very subtle that just changes them up. And even one thing I love too is how the frill colors are pretty different. Like there's some that are more yellow, there's some that are orange. In the case of the bull male, there's one that's like basically
they have
red
a lot of diversity
in
among the Triceratops, which I think is very interesting.
It's also fairly
not necessarily
reflective of a lot of the fossil material. I mean, there's a lot of different looking trike skulls.
Yeah. And not necessarily unrealistic. There's lots of birds, like I know rough, that's a type of shorebird, but the males can be all kinds of crazy colors. Like, I mean, they they can look almost like different species, but they're all like, and they're not even like different subspecies. Like, they just all hang out together. So I mean, this kind of stuff can happen.
Also,
sure.
The animation for the actual fight between the trikes looked great. The final animation of the older male shoving the young one to the ground looked really good.
That was very good. Yeah, the whole fight in general was very, very well done. I think they did a good job making them feel big.
Triceratops. Yeah.
I mean,
I know that
these definitely feel like weighty, dangerous animals. I think maybe it was Aiden or someone else, one of us, after we watched the episode, was talking about how it just really like makes you realize how much animals like that are putting their lives at risk when they're fighting any like herbivore with huge horns. Because it just looks like they could pierce each other's skulls and kill each other so easily.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think the actual combat was very well depicted 100%. In that regard.
That's why they evolve ritualized combat, just like deer and other things with big horns, to try to hurt each other less.
Yes.
Exactly. I do like on the big like Yoshi's trike dude. I'm just skimming over the scene here, and I love the asymmetry in his horns
and the frill. He's got a big chunk taken out of
and
his
frill. He has a huge like bite mark out of his frill.
Yeah.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, which is awesome.
You don't see it very much because it's on the right side of the frill.
Yeah.
It's only visible in a couple shots.
I see it now. That's so cool. Once again, attention to detail, stuff that you're going to pick up on after watching for the millionth time.
Yes. This show really does reward rewatching with the amount of little things they put in.
It does.
It's very nice.
It really does.
Yeah, really good segment. What happens after this?
Final scene
it's on
in the
to
show.
the scene that you predicted subliminally.
Oh, yes.
Tell them the story. Tell them the story.
I should tell them the story. Okay. So, this was like, I don't even know, late April, early April. So it was a time. It was a time that existed. And
one of the times before time.
Prehistoric Planet 2 was announced, right? We knew it was coming out. Hadn't seen a trailer or whatever, but we knew about it. And I was thinking, it just got me thinking of like cool planet Earthy dinosaur segments that I'd like to see. I wasn't even thinking of like, oh, this would be cool to see in Prehistoric Planet. Like, no, I was just thinking of like, oh, what's a cool planet Earth type dinosaur thing. And one thing I know I always really like are drone chases. I love drone chases in Planet Earth type shows, like just really long takes. They're often done with like wolves and stuff. And I was thinking, I was like, what's a good choice of animals that I could use for something like this, like for this scene, right? If I was, had money and could make this. And initially I was thinking like, oh, like maybe Tyrannosaurs and Ornithomimosaurs were like an initial like, oh, obvious thing because they're two of the most speed adapted of all dinosaurs with their how they've convergently evolved the same foot anatomy that's designed for speed. So initially I was thinking like maybe like a Albertosaurus thing or whatever, chasing like a Struthomimos, like some kind of Gallimimus, Ornithomimosaur. And I was but then I was like, but I don't really know if Albertosaurus lived in really open spaces, and I didn't really want to look it up. So instead I was like, well, you know what almost certainly lived in at least some open spaces because it was so far north, Nanuqsaurus. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I think it'd be cool to have like a scene with like Nanuqsaurus chasing some Ornithomimosaurs. Not even too sure if Ornithomimosaurs lived with Nanuqsaurus, but seems reasonable. And it'd be cool to get like some cool drone shots of like a chase with these two animals. Fast forward to Prehistoric Planet, the first teaser, the first trailer that came out. And I was watching it, and I was like, cool, right? And then I see a shot of a Nanuqsaurus chasing Ornithomimosaurs, like via drone footage, like almost like exactly what I was imagining, not the exact same thing. And I just lost my mind. Like I almost wish I was recording that, because that would have been, Prehistoric Planet trailer reaction level stuff. Because I was just like, no way. This is literally what I was coming up with on my own, and it's in the show. That's so awesome. Cool. That's so crazy. I didn't happen exactly the way that I was imagining, right? Like, my way that I had in my brain was there's 3 Nanuqsaurus, and they were chasing this herd, and then eventually they were getting close to one of them was slowing down, and then it's like dodging and jinking around, and the 3 of them are like working together to try to catch it as it tries to evade them, because it's better, it's more maneuverable and stuff. Which obviously is not exactly how it went in the show, but I mean, like, it almost certainly wouldn't, because I mean, if it did go that way, I mean, that would have been some weird psychic stuff. But
yeah, but any more level of coincidence would have been a bit concerning.
Yeah, it's close enough to what I had envisioned that it was pretty crazy coincidence.
That's so
and yeah,
neat.
I really like the scene.
That is crazy.
I thought it was very good.
Yeah, really good scene, and I think, I know we talked about it, Gibson, a bit, but I really like that the note that it left off on. Because I like season 1's as well, just the pterosaur flying off into the sunset, I thought was, subtle but open-ended for what it was. This one I thought was really cool with sort of the theming of this one mother Nanuqsaurus just struggling to get a meal for her babies in this very desolate landscape, and it's kind of leaves on a very haunting visual note of just like
zooming out into
welcome to nature kind of thing as it zooms out.
Yeah.
It wasn't like this grand super cinematic outro or anything.
This might have been filmed in like Yellowstone or something. Like it looks like as someone who
beautiful country wherever it is
goes to school in Western Montana. I mean, this looks like Western Montana, northern Wyoming, in the winter.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be too surprised if it was filmed kind of around there, which is pretty cool.
But yeah, I love the note that this season ended on with this scene. I think I told you, David, it was like the right combination of like harsh and wholesome, because you have a mother caring for her young in the middle of nowhere in the freezing cold, and it was a cool contrast. And this scene in general, I really liked, and I liked it more on rewatch actually. I was really appreciating how good the effects were on the Nanuqsaurus, specifically the adult.
Oh yeah,
like there are some close-ups of the face and the foot that were reaching like Tyrannosaurus levels for me, which is previously probably the best looking effects in the show in my opinion.
Yeah.
I thought it looked great, and just lots of cool shots, and fantastic hunt scene. Really, really like it.
Yeah, it was very good.
For sure.
And like you were saying, I like the way that ended too. I really like how this is something that I guess getting into a little bit of the show in general that I just like about the show is how, we end it with just this mother in the middle of her life, doing her thing, caring for her babies, and life goes on and stuff. And like, I really like how Prehistoric Planet lives in the moment. There's never a sense of impending doom, because ultimately we know that the dinosaurs' days are numbered here, right? Like, the extinction is coming very soon. This world is coming to an end soon. But I really love how they don't make any inclination of that, because there wouldn't have been any inclination of that, right? Previously. And there would have been animals, right? I mean, like, we're not even necessarily like right on the extinction event, right? I mean, like, these are animals that, especially in the case of like T-Rex and Triceratops, like animals that were where the species were around when the actual meteor hit. I mean, these individuals could, in theory, be living thousands, hundreds of thousands of years before the extinction even occurs, right? I mean, like,
yeah,
long time ago. And,
the end of the Cretaceous.
But yeah, I like how they
often...
don't really focus on the extinction is coming soon. Like, they're focusing much more on these animals and they're living their lives, and there's no real inclination of
feels,
which is really like.
This show is the first documentary that really makes me feel like I'm in the midst of an expanding prehistoric world, which I really like. And it's not like, here is this small segment, now we end on this extinction event kind of thing, and it's all gone. Yeah. And there's no hope kind of thing. It makes I feel like whenever documentaries do that, there are some that for example, when Dinosaurs Roamed America, I really love the format of that show because it takes you through the entire age of the dinosaurs and then ends on that note, and I think that's fine. But for something like this that's more exploring things deeply, I think it's important to leave it open-ended because already with just the 2 seasons, they are showing us how big this world actually was, like even more so than any other documentary has done with dinosaurs.
Yeah.
And if it ever ended on the note of a meteor hitting the Earth, then it would feel strangely final and depressing when we're I guess I'm more so unnecessarily depressing. In a sense
because depressing can be good if there's a message, but a lot of times it is just, I mean, it's gotten so cliche. Almost every documentary depicts the end of the Cretaceous as an environment with a sense of impending doom, because even if the animals don't know, we, the audience, know that the asteroid's coming, and it always lands. In every documentary, we always get extinction sequences, and I feel like it inadvertently makes the Cretaceous feel shorter and smaller than it actually was. Like, Prehistoric Planet makes the late Cretaceous feel bigger, more immersive, and more vibrant and fleshed out than anything I've ever watched.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that is a great point, too, because I feel like in every show that I watch, like, they almost treat it like the dinosaurs are almost predicting that the meteorite is coming, and like everything is slowly dying off and like almost borderline apocalyptic.
Well, that's part of the sense of decay.
That's part of the general, like, a paleontological thought process that's starting to go away now. But I mean, there was legitimately that thought, like, especially in the days when like Walking with Dinosaurs came out, of that the dinosaurs were going extinct already, right? They were already on their way out. And then the asteroid is like just the final thing that really ended them. Because of the fact that, so the Campanian period is pretty well known, at least in the Cretaceous period, as like the heyday of the dinosaurs. So it's like so many dinosaurs are known from the Campanian, which is just before the Maastrichtian, right? Parasaurolophus, basically all of the ceratopsians, right? Lots and lots of animals.
Your
Albertosaurus, Gorgosaurus, all those animals, right? All known from the Campanian. And the Maastrichtian, compared to the Campanian, does not have as many animals that we know of, at least. And so it was a long time. And, like, I could be wrong, but I think it's enough. Like, it's a big enough difference that people are inclined to think that this isn't just preservation bias. This is, like, an actual thing that has occurred. But, however, and I think as many people would argue now, just because dinosaurs might not have been like at their most diverse, right, doesn't necessarily mean they're on their way out. Because a really good source that is cited for this is mammals. The heyday of the mammals was in the Miocene, right? That's when mammals were at their peak level of diversity, right? So like today in North America, right, we have like, I don't know, 5 species of deer, right? You know, mule deer, whitetail, elk, moose, maybe something else I'm forgetting. Like in the Miocene, it would have been more like 12 or to 15, right? I mean, stuff like that, where there's just a crazy number of species, and there's comparatively significantly less diversity today among mammals. But I don't think anyone would say that large mammals are on their way out. They're just not at peak levels of diversity at the moment. And that's kind of the main thing that people are thinking about with dinosaurs in general. So that was depicted in a lot of those old documentaries because that was a legitimate thought process, but a lot of paleontologists to these days are more on the side of, no, these animals weren't going extinct anyways, right? The asteroid really is what actually ended up. They would almost certainly still be around and still be a major part of Earth's ecosystems today if the asteroid had never hit.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Which in a way, like, it's technically possible, but it also makes more sense that dinosaurs would be thriving and then some catastrophic event would randomly happen, because it feels way too conveniently timed in a way if they're already on their way out and then the solar system is just like, here's Big Rock.
Documentaries take so much cinematic advantage of that. And I love Walking with Dinosaurs. I'm not throwing shade, but, like, there is something a little too cinematic or movie structure-like to the fact that there's this, you know, archaic group of animals decaying and the volcanoes and gases
It feels a lot more like the asteroids putting them out of their misery. Whereas, like,
no kidding.
In reality, it probably would have been. I mean, it would have been like if the asteroid hits today, right? I mean, just everything's going smoothly. Everything, you know, animals are living their lives, all that kind of stuff, and then suddenly, just one day, it was a really, really bad day. And things stayed bad for quite a long time, and almost every large animal died. The end.
Yep.
Which is how it happened.
But the KT event explained by Eric Ray.
Yeah, but I like how they don't focus on the KT event. I like how they're just doing stuff with dinosaurs and treating them as if they were around today, and I just really like that about the whole show.
Agreed. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's the whole show, and unless you guys had any other thoughts on it, then I was thinking a little bit of comparison. We're kind of bringing season 1 into the mix here of our thoughts on the whole picture.
We're kind of already talking about whole picture stuff, so let's just keep doing that.
We are, yeah. I think it's great. I mean, just to kick things off here, I really think after seeing part 2 especially, I know there was a little bit of like, oh, we're getting more Maastrichtian stuff. That's a little disappointing, but I think part 1 and part 2 is a really cool, comprehensive look at most of the really cool stuff that we know about the end of the Age of the Dinosaurs. Yeah. Like as part 2,
it feels very thoroughly explored, and I think, like, if I had been in charge of making part 2, I probably would have changed time periods. But I'm actually happy that we got more Maastrichtian. Like, I think it's worked out well. I think the only thing I would say is that if there's a season 3, better start going further back in time, because there's no way we can scrape the bottom of the barrel hard enough to get another season of Maastrichtian
even just go,
and
like
actually
I just said,
have it be entertaining.
Like I just said, go more hard into the Companion. I mean, I know they've already dipped their toes in the Companion, technically, in this show. It hasn't all just been Maastrichtian, but, you know, go...
Dinosaur Park Formation.
You know, Parasaurolophus, Styracosaurus, because I know that, like, one of the limitations that they have with the show is with the plant species that are around, right? So one of the reasons, I'm not saying it's the only reason, but one of the reasons why they have it be at the end of the Cretaceous is because the end of the Cretaceous is when plant communities were finally pretty similar to how they are today. Like, most of the modern groups had evolved. Really, the only main difference is that grasslands didn't exist at the time. Grass had evolved by the end of the Cretaceous. That's an often misconception or whatever. I don't know if it was legitimately thought at one point. I don't know, but grass was around by the end of the Cretaceous. It just, they didn't form grasslands, right? They weren't anywhere near as dominant as they are today. But that said, and this is as a non-paleobotanist, I can't imagine that it would be that different in the Campanian. The Campanion's only, like, you know, a few million years older than the Maastrichtian.
Yeah. I think the Campanian would be very doable.
I think we could dive into that. And like you said, Dinosaur Park Formation, Albertosaurus, Parasaurolophus, Styracosaurus, Chasmosaurus. Probably a lot of other Campanian stuff that I don't know about. I think just getting some more...
So many Ceratopsians.
Yeah,
I was just going to say, I think the show could really use more Ceratopsians.
So many. I love Ceratopsians
and that is one of the limits of the Maastrichtian.
More of them. Yeah, there's just not a lot of ceratopsians known. Though there is technically some that they could do that we haven't seen, like Pterosaurus.
Yeah, or Regaliceratops.
Pterosaurus, and I mean, you could also technically do Regaliceratops and Sinoceratops if you wanted to get brave. I know it's very fragmentary, but they've done that before.
Yeah.
They have, but not with animals that are as frequently unique from species to species as ceratopsians. Like, you really gotta have some confidence in filling in gaps with Sinoceratops.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I hope that they at least do that. I mean, I would love to see them go, even farther back and do lots of other crazy stuff.
I'll just say it. Give me the Jurassic. I don't care how long it takes. Awesome. I want to see the Jurassic depicted by this effects team and all that. Yeah.
And again, going back that far, it becomes way more of a struggle because angiosperms didn't exist, which, for those who don't know plants, angiosperms
that's all the plants.
That's like all the plants. Like, that's modern day, that's like basically all of them. Whereas back then, there aren't a lot of environments today that don't have angiosperms. There are some. The Pacific Northwest, like Washington forests, right? Mostly of conifers and ferns. Those aren't. Those existed in the Jurassic, right? That's the reason why you see stuff like that in Walking with Dinosaurs.
Yeah.
I mean, there are technically some spots, but like, you're way more limited. Like, there aren't really like fern and horsetail prairies today like they existed back then.
Sadly,
right?
It'd be cool if there were,
but I almost like.
Unfortunately, no.
I'm gonna be real with you. As a guy who is not a paleobotanist, I don't really know how much I care. Like, I'm kind of just like, just show them anyways. I don't care if there's angiosperms in the Jurassic.
Yeah, as long as
that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm here for. Obviously, try your best.
Get close enough. It doesn't have to be exact. Is my logic. Like, if you can find something that visually approximates the look of the environment well enough.
Yeah, I'm way more like,
does
this give up? Even if there's plants here that hadn't evolved yet, my just biggest thing is, does this give off the vibe that this place would have looked like? Right. That's all I care about. Mm-hmm. I don't care if there's grass.
I'm relatively the same boat.
But that's just
especially just practically speaking, you're not going to be able to make it perfect with the Jurassic.
Yeah.
I mean, they could technically CGI everything, but that would be like
that would like ruin one of the coolest elements of the show too.
That would be really, and
one of the reasons this show looks so good and looks so immersive and Planet Earth-esque is because they're using real filming locations. Yeah, and I don't want to see them sacrifice that.
It takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to emulate Mother Nature well, and I do think not using real filming locations would be a major hit on the show. I don't think they should do that. I think they should keep
using CGI to potentially modify certain locations or visuals or something. Like, if you need to get rid of a bunch of flowers in the corner of a shot or what, like and they might already do that to touch things up occasionally. But wholly CG created environments, I think, would not be the way to go.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
but
at least for
I'm very curious to see what they do next, because I do think they will do more stuff. But I'm with you.
With the success of the show thus far, which is great. I'm glad this show is successful and that we're probably going to see more of it in the future.
Whatever it is they do, I just hope that we get a bit more expansive out of the Mr. Casino. Even if it's just a companion, I'll be happy. I'd love to see Jurassic. I'd love to see, heck, even Triassic. That's maybe even more unrealistic, but like, as long as we get to see more new animals, that's what I care about.
I was going to say, absolutely. I think my most requested one is I would love to go early Cretaceous, and I know I'm the Spinosaur simp. I wouldn't necessarily want to see Spinosaurus itself because of the mess that it is, but stuff like Baryonyx, Suchomimus, even the new Irritator with the expanding jaws has such potential for like gorgeous fishing scenes.
Seeing Spinosaurus would be really cool.
Like, I would love to see that. I have this weird, daunting feeling. Well, not daunting, because I would still watch it anyway, because Cenozoic is cool. I have this weird feeling that they might do a Cenozoic season at some point.
They could.
Like,
and I
move into that.
I'd be down for that. I mean, I'd love to see more weird Cenozoic stuff, because from the little I know, I'm always surprised. Like, I don't know a ton about prehistoric Cenozoic stuff, but I always, whenever I look into it even a little bit, I'm always just like, man, there is some weird stuff that is from the Cenozoic. Weird mammals.
I have a feeling if they went Cenozoic, I would definitely not be nearly as excited, but I have a feeling it would be a pleasant surprise for me. Because I
think that,
like,
I'm in the same boat, yeah.
I'm somewhat shamelessly a bit of a mammal hater. Like, I've finally come to terms with the fact that mammals are boring and dinosaurs are cool. You can't change my mind.
Don't get me wrong, Gibson. I also have a mammal inferiority complex. Don't worry.
Yes.
We all do.
But I do think
I know I could be proven wrong by just a lot of cool stuff I haven't heard of.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, I'm sure there's potential there, even if it's not my first choice.
Yeah.
And yeah, certainly Triassic or even going into the Paleozoic would be crazy too, and probably really hard to do, but would be really neat. There's so many directions you can go with this, and I'm just interested to see what they'll choose.
Well, apparently, I haven't. Hold on. Okay. Apparently, on here on Reddit, I haven't seen the actual origin post, but I'm just looking, and Darren Naish apparently has said on Twitter about 20 days ago, which was after the season 2 ended, he said there's a lot more unfinished segments that they could finish, but it would take a lot of time if those segments, because they're just ideas and they're not yet animated, and they would likely still be set in the Maastrichtian, but they have a lot of stuff that was even scrapped from season 2, from the sound of it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they were in no shortage of ideas. I mean, they have such a huge team of people just coming up with stuff. So it makes sense that there's unfinished stuff.
You could keep doing stuff with the Maastrichtian 100%. I'm just saying I'd like them to get out of that a little bit.
Yeah.
And do some
and I think you can't sustain 5 more episodes of the Maastrichtian, in my opinion, without getting really repetitive.
Certainly,
I'm
with
sure
the
there would be
animals.
some cool things, but at some point you are just going to run out of animals and behaviors and locations. It is finite.
It is. But yeah, I guess before we finish, because I'm thinking about my general thoughts on, season 1 compared to season 2. In season 1, like, it genuinely, from my first watch, I think it was easier to rank the episodes than season 2 for me. Anytime somebody is like, SpinoDude, what was your... Like, I know my favorite episode, but outside of my favorite being Swamps for all the segments, I don't know how to rank the rest of them.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty consistent for the most part.
They have different strengths and weaknesses. Badlands and Oceans are really good at, like, connectivity and episode flow, but not as good at just consistent segment quality. I think there's a mix of things. I think the episodes are still good. I think my instinct is still to say I prefer season 1 overall, but I think season 2 is still a really strong follow-up. And
I gotta be real. I just gotta watch them all again. Like I said, I've only seen season 2 once a while ago.
Yeah.
Because I've been in... I won't get into it, but I've had living situations and life stuff getting in the way that's been preventing me from doing that. But I will at some point rewatch season 2, and I want to rewatch season 1. And I think after I do all that, I can come up with much more concise opinions based on all of that. But
I am curious to watch all 10 episodes, just like one after another,
I want to do
to
that
see
at
what
some
happens.
point. That'd be really hype.
Yeah, it'd be nice to revisit season 1 now, having seen season 2, and kind of see how my perspective has changed.
Yeah, season 2
because I know one
definitely
reason
got a
I
lot
might
more.
still be preferring season 1 is just the bias of the impact of seeing this show for the first time, because just when you first watch, you're like, oh, the effects, it looks so cool.
Oh yeah, this hit so hard. It was so unexpected.
Once you get used to it,
the
the initial impact is sort of dumbed down a little bit. And so I think that may be part of why I still like season 1 better. So I definitely, more revisiting and all that needs to occur.
Yeah.
I agree.
Definitely for my vote. But yeah, I really like season 2. Season 2 had some really epic banger stuff in it. And I am excited to see all the stuff that they do in the future.
Absolutely.
One thing I really like, so as I mentioned before, I've now listened to all 4 episodes of the Prehistoric Planet podcast, which is basically just the behind the scenes, right? It's their making of the show, but it's just in the format of a podcast, so it can be longer.
Yeah.
And I really loved listening to that, because you can just tell the passion that these guys have for this show, right? I'm just like, yeah, no, this makes sense that this show was made by these people, because they have just such utter love and vision for what they wanted to make here. They were not just doing this for money or because dinosaurs sell, right? They wanted to make a dinosaur natural history show that is filmed as though they went back in time and just got out their gear and started filming them, as they keep saying in the show, in the podcast. And that's what they wanted to make, and they had vision, and they committed, and they did it. And they did it! And
it turned out fantastic.
I love that happened, and just hearing their passion for this show was just, it was really wonderful to hear.
It's fantastic to know that we're not the only ones who wanted something like that.
Yeah.
Because I still remember you and I, Eric, when we went out to your cabin a few years ago and we were kayaking around the lake.
Yes.
And we were talking about how, man, if only someone could just make Planet Earth 2, but with dinosaurs.
Yep.
And then Prehistoric Planet shows up and we're like,
that's
God,
literally what happened. Made by the people who made like Planet Earth 2 and stuff. Yeah.
I think what's even more crazy about why it blindsided us so much as well is the fact that dinosaur documentaries haven't been hip since like the early 2000s with all of the BBC stuff.
Yeah, no, they were.
And then after that, it slowly fizzled out.
Yeah, they were.
And then all of a sudden,
kind of stopped.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, they're just like, "Yo, here's the best one that's ever been made with the craziest visuals and everything." Yeah. And we're just dropping it out of nowhere. And I mean, I'm sure, obviously, they were following up on Jurassic World getting revitalized, obviously brought dinosaurs into the public eye, which I believe gave this a window to be more successful.
It gave it a window to be more successful, though I do know that, I think, what was his name? I feel bad I can't remember the name of the people who are making the show. But anyways, one of the producers on the show, right, with the guy who like first came up with this idea. I know he came up with the idea for it. It sounded like before even Jurassic World, right? Like he came up with it. He keeps telling the story, right, of he and David Attenborough were in Africa, like in some of the mountains of Africa, right? And they were talking about how nowhere else on planet Earth is where Africa's where Earth puts on its greatest show, right? And he was like, I wonder if that was always the case. And that's where the idea for Prehistoric Planet came from. And it was like 10 or 15 years ago that he first came up with this. And then he'd been wanting to make it for all that time. And then eventually just all the stars and stuff were aligned and allowed it to eventually happen.
Wow.
So I know the idea is older
cool.
than that, but Jurassic World certainly might have been a contributing factor for putting other keys in place to allow this to happen.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, because, I mean, even outside of this, there's so many other dinosaur-related things that have just been taking off since 2015, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So. You know, the Jurassic World movies, despite being utter trash that I now hate, I do sadly have to thank them for, I guess, getting dinosaurs back in the public view with the same kind of vigor they had in the 90s. Which is nice.
Which is awesome, yeah.
It is.
And it's great seeing
I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the first Jurassic Park.
Accurate depictions of them, too.
Or Jurassic Park 3, rather.
Because I know that's something that we never even really talk about now, because it's just expected with Prehistoric Planet. But I mean, just the fact that these are all like almost flawless dinosaurs, like to what we know of them.
Yeah, design-wise, anatomically, the designs
is insane.
are
like
amazing.
When you think about it, like, I don't even think any other documentary has really done that, right? Like, you can almost always pick out issues. But the fact that they came out with these, and you're just like, I mean, there's so many of them where you're just like, there's nothing wrong with this. Like, this is just, based on what we know of the animal, this is a perfectly valid way to reconstruct it.
And Walking with Dinosaurs awesome. T-Rex was basically...
Yeah.
Walking with Dinosaurs Rex was basically an Abellasaur back in the day.
And because, as I said before, they were so passionate about depicting this whole landscape accurately. So one thing they talk about in the podcast, that I'll just bring up here, because you were talking about studies they commissioned. They actually commissioned for Prehistoric Planet a really big, I'm not going to say the biggest ever because I don't remember the specifics, but a really big paleoclimatology study on the Maastrichtian Cretaceous, right? They had, like, you know, these guys and these massive supercomputers and stuff running really complex climate models to try to figure out what the environments were like in all the different regions. So in Prehistoric Planet, when they say, like, a region, like, oh, this spot is hit by frequent storms or something like that is based on that study, right? Like, they're not just making that up.
No way.
Yeah, no, they're not just making that up. Like, they know, based on this, again, like, I'm not too sure how accurate it is, but it sounds like it's pretty accurate. Like, they know how much precipitation each area would have gotten, all the spots that have snow, right? This climatology study says that they would have snow. They'd have about this much snow. It'd be snowy on average about this long in the year, all that kind of stuff. And, like, really fine detail. Like, I want to say within, like, I don't even, but, like, surprisingly small units, they have pretty accurate climatology data and stuff. So, like, they're also threw all that in to their depictions.
My goodness.
Here. Yeah. So that's something that they did for this show to really help make sure that they were depicting everything accurately.
No kidding. Wow.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
And, you know, one random thought that I had that I really hope happens, but in today's day and age, probably not, unfortunately. I just want a Blu-ray of this show.
Because gosh!
I want to see it on my shelf.
I'm so happy you brought that up. I fully agree.
I want it so bad.
And make a DVD for those of us who live in the Stone Age.
Yeah. Just something physical. Yeah. Just, like, I know we've talked so much.
Laserdisc. I don't care. Anything.
Yeah.
USB drive.
A CD.
Floppy disk.
I know that we have talked amongst ourselves so much about how, like, in the world of streaming, right, so many, like, a lot of physical media is going out of fashion. But, like, it's
and give us a CD and a vinyl of the soundtracks.
It's so nice. There's something that's really nice about owning, like, a physical copy, right? Like, owning Prehistoric Planet, right? That just really gives you this sense of, I don't even know, like, being a fan. Like, I don't even know exactly what it is, but just there's this really nice feeling about owning, like, here it is, right?
Well, it's nice because if all the streaming services and internet servers somehow get destroyed in some apocalyptic event, you still have Prehistoric Planet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There's a major preservation benefit to keeping physical media alive.
Or when, whatever, like, if you want to watch something and there's not really good internet connection, like, all this kind of stuff. Like, I think that Blu-ray is something that I would buy, is what I'm really saying. And I don't know if they will make one, because I like buying Blu-rays, and, like, I have a Blu-ray of or I don't know about but at least a DVD of Walking with Dinosaurs that I bought only a couple years ago, right? Because it's nice owning these things on physical media. And I hope that they do the same with Prehistoric Planet. I will buy it immediately because I want to show full support for them making a Blu-ray of it.
I do as well. And I know many people have asked Darren Naish on Twitter and stuff about if we'll ever see it, and he just said, you know, that's out of my hands for the most part, because it's Apple's thing, and he's like, if it's making enough money on Apple TV, then I wouldn't count on it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I do know he has said some stuff elsewhere, like, I think basically implying he doesn't think it's likely to happen, which is very disappointing. but I wish it, because I mean also like I guess we just shouldn't throw shade at Apple TV when you're asking them to do this for you, but Apple TV is not the most optimized website, so having
and no
it's not.
one uses it.
Having
like literally when I was prepping to record this, I went on and it's like, you're signed in, and then I click on the episode and it's like, sign in to watch the trial episode, and I'm like, what?
I remember,
like I'm already signed in.
Everyone has difficulties with Apple TV, and I'm just like, being able to have a Blu-ray and just being able to bypass it completely would be so nice.
It would.
Because
it'd be nice to see Prehistoric Planet sitting next to Blue Planet 2 on my shelf.
It would be.
Because that's my favorite nature documentary of all time, and it'd be nice to have maybe my second favorite nature documentary of all time next to it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know, when you think about it too, like, obviously disclaimer, I'm not a businessman. I don't know all the ins and outs of making the most dough.
No, I'm not a business major, but
I was a businessman doing business.
Yeah, yeah. But there's a lot of people who are very much opposed to using streaming services. You know, one example is, you know, my parents, for example, who are, you know, more old-fashioned with like wanting to get DVDs or just rent stuff from the library. Yeah. Well, exactly. And I feel like after a while, like you put something on a streaming service, people will pay the money to watch it, like us who are excited to watch it. But then like a year later, here's Prehistoric Planet 1 on Blu-ray. And then when season 2 comes out, you pay for the service and you watch season 2. And then when the sales go down, here it is on Blu-ray. It seems like you almost get double the amount of income because the people who are super fans are just going to buy the physical thing on top of paying for like 100%. A month or two of the service.
100%. But it's also one of those things too, David,
they'll
where you also
forget
have
that they have Apple TV and pay for like a year of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you do have to consider that, unfortunately, like Gibson just said, a big part of streaming services and how they do stuff, and subscription services in general, and the reason why they're like that is hoping that people will subscribe and then forget about it and then give them a bunch of money, like that.
Well, true, or they see other things on the service and stay around.
Yeah, exactly. Or also, like, I mean, there just needs to be financial investment in enough people would even buy this, right? Like, you're not going to make a giant run. You're not going to make a run of Prehistoric Planet Blu-ray if for some reason they don't think that enough people would buy them, right? You're going to need to sell X number of copies. I don't know what the number is, but it's probably not small, in order to make that a worthwhile thing for them to do. And I don't know if they think it would make that, because I mean, I know that there's some people who aren't super into the idea of buying stuff physically anymore, right? You know, I know that we don't represent everyone, unfortunately, in our interest in buying stuff that we really like on physical media. But
that's true.
It also sucks that, like, with the way movies and TV work via streaming media is so much more broken to me than the way music works, because there's all this competition over who is allowed to have what properties. Because with music, you can have just about any music streaming service and you will have access to 99% the same stuff.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And then there's so much more competition. And on the one hand, I want to like competition because I don't want to like support just having monopolies over it. But I think the music streaming industry does represent somewhat of a more positive outcome of there is still some competition. There are still options. I mean, Spotify's the biggest, but it's not the only one people use. But you still get pretty universal availability of everything. So,
yeah, like when I switched over to YouTube Music, right, I just threw all the same songs that I had on Spotify onto my playlist, right? And I threw some more because there are some that's on YouTube that aren't on Spotify, because YouTube, you can do YouTube videos, which is very nice.
Yes.
Very true.
But
you know, this is kind of off topic, but it just made me think of it. I'm very surprised that gaming hasn't gotten into the mix with like streaming services, because I was just thinking like, imagine like Sony does a game streaming service where you pay $5 a month but you have access to God of War, Horizon Zero Dawn, the Spider-Man
so
games
weird.
and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It would be weird.
Don't give him ideas,
but
David.
I'm not. At the same time,
need
though,
to mark this in history. If they do it, then we can sue them and make David rich.
You're right.
True.
You're right.
But
You stole his idea.
On one hand, it's annoying because this whole thing of like monthly payment, but on another hand, I'm like, if you're a hardcore gamer and you pay like $5 and you play like the whole God of War series and like both Horizon games in a month, and then like cancel your subscription, that's kind of cool. But anyway, this is completely off topic, but it's just a...
No, it's an interesting thought.
It's an interesting thought compared to other forms of media.
I mean, there's pros and cons.
I don't know how...
right?
I don't know how much more we had to say about Prehistoric Planet. I kind of feel like we should probably wrap up relatively
we're
soon.
kind of fizzling out here anyway.
But I do have one final thing I just wanted to bring up that's just a neat little observation that I did not make. There was a random YouTube commenter who noticed this, but I just want to repeat what they said because I do think it's just a fun little detail that I didn't pick up on. In the last season, in Season 1, in Coasts, we got this beautiful sequence of the hatching Alcyone in their first flight and escaping the Barbarodactylus. And we get to see so much of these little baby pterosaurs. They're one of the most memorable animals for me from Season 1. And we only ever get to see the adults in background shots. They are never even in focus in the frame in that episode. The first animal we see in Season 2 is an adult Alcyone at the beginning of Islands.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Oh, do
I
we?
never commented on that.
I forgot about
Yeah.
that. Okay.
So I think that's kind of neat. It feels like
neat.
some subtle thematic payoff from last season. You could make
that's
it your
cool.
head
That's
canon
true.
that it was one of the
Next time.
babies who survived. Who knows?
Yeah.
I did make note of that because I was like, oh, that has to be an Alcyone because I remember they had blue beaks. That's like the one thing we could make out in the background.
I don't know why I didn't pick that up. That seems like something I should have picked up. I'll have to pay attention when I watch it again eventually.
Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to add, we're approaching an hour and a half again.
I
for the
think
final
we're
part,
good.
so-
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm all set.
I think I've said
You good?
everything I wanted to say. Just, I still love this show, even though I know that we had critiques every now and then. This is still like the best dinosaur documentary ever. I'm so happy it exists. It's incredible. And
Yeah,
I love
it's a joy to watch.
And that's about. I do look forward to whatever they do next.
It feels great that there are so many talented people who are willing to come together to care about our greatest interest.
There are. Oh, that's another thing the podcast
Very
gave me is
nice.
I now have a number about how many people took to make this show. About 1,600 people were involved in making
There
this.
you go.
900 of them were visual effects.
That does not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
That does not surprise me. Over half of them worked on the visuals. Wow. That's crazy. Well,
awesome.
This was super fun. Taking a dive into all of this whole thing with you guys. Thanks for joining me. And
Yeah.
and don't worry, Gibson and Eric will be back. We actually, prior to this recording, we were talking about plans for potential new series and stuff. So
Yes.
stay tuned for more things with them.
We will soon appear more on David's channel than either of us will on our own channels.
Yes.
That's very
just by
true,
these
actually.
2 podcast episodes coming out I've already done more on your channel this year than mine.
Yeah.
So I mean, there you go.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening this far. And what should the code word be for people who listen up to this point?
We already had the Mosasaurus, so maybe we should say vacuum dactyl.
Yes.
Vacuum dactyl.
To comment vacuum dactyl down below. I love it. I should do a fan art thing on my Discord for this. People to draw the Rhombosaurus and the vacuum dactyl. I'm going to do that. We're going to have an art competition.
Nice.
Okay.
Do it.
Anyways, thank you for listening, and I'll catch you guys next time. So, yeah, bye-bye.
Bye.